thinking about a 2011, maybe the thought comes across your mind, okay, I don't want to spend crazy amounts of money, right? I want to get a 2011 pistol that doesn't cost a lot. Let's say your budget is about $1,500 and that gets you thinking, oh, I've heard decent things about the Prodigy. You know, after the Prodigy, the initial kinks got ironed out, they're thinking $1,500, that's a really good buy. And I'm not saying the Prodigy is a bad gun at all, but there are a lot of hidden costs when it comes to getting into the 2011 game that realistically, if you're not willing to, over a short period of time, invest probably like $3,000 into the 2011 concept, 2011's just straight up might not be for you. And I want to kind of talk about that because a lot of people don't really think about the true cost of owning a firearm. And now I'm talking about this in the modern era of flashlights, red dots, and as someone that would be using that gun to train seriously, whether that gun is intended to be a home defense firearm, a competition gun, or the gun that they're going to be shooting most often, 2011s get really expensive. They start out expensive. Even the cheap ones are pricey. When you can get a Glock for $499 and a cheap 2011 is like $1,500, it starts not really making sense for the average person. And I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm not trying to encourage you. I'm not trying to get you to do anything. I'm just trying to maybe put this in context for you in a way that you might not have seen before, because I think a lot of people don't really go into this with all of the information, and you might be biting off more than you're willing to chew. Now, this is going to go in tandem with a video dropping on my main channel about the Fusion XP Pro and why I think it's a very great value. But let's talk about the 2011 system and why they're so expensive. Well, first of all, they are an old design that is very, very finicky when not done right. And they can be very good, but they are definitely going to take a lot more time, a lot more energy, and a lot more money to keep them running good compared to like a Glock or any of your modern striker fire guns. So let's talk about the hidden costs. Let's say you want to get into the 2011 game and you want to use this gun seriously. Well, even if it's any firearm that you want to use seriously in a modern context for home defense, personal protection, CCW, competition shooting, most likely a lot of you are going to be wanting to put a light on it and wanting to put a red dot on it. That alone for the CCW home defense role is going to be universal throughout all guns. So maybe you get something like a Streamlight TLR1 that costs about $100. Maybe you get a Hollow Sun that costs anywhere from $150 to $300. Maybe you go with like a Surefire, which is about $250 on sale, and a Trijicon. Maybe you get the RMR HD, which has a street price of about $700. All of a sudden, you could now be either $300 to like $800 additional. But that's not something we're really talking about. That's not the main hidden cost. Most people kind of accept, I'm going to get a gun, and if I want to put a red dot on the light on it, that costs that amount of money. Most people understand that that costs money. The other things that most people don't think about, with 2011s, magazines are probably the most crucial and commonly overlooked, most important aspect of getting a gun to run right. For a long time, 2011s, for the average person that wasn't a super nerd into competition shooting, was not viable because the magazines themselves were not the most reliable. They were finicky and they were expensive. Nowadays, modern mags like from Staccato or Atlas being kind of the cream of the crop, even MBX and some other manufacturers, nowadays there's good magazines. You want good magazines. The cheap magazines don't always have the best track record, don't always work as well. And it's not really worth it if you're going to be wanting to use this gun seriously. So magazines, the average person, if they're training a lot with that gun, you're going to want to have anywhere from 5 to 10 magazines. Most modern guns nowadays come with 2 mags. That's great. You're already mostly halfway there if you just want like 4 or 5 mags. But The good mags cost about 80 bucks, sometimes more. So 80 bucks. And let's say you want anywhere from 4 to 8 mags. You're looking at somewhere in the $300 to $600 price range just to get into the magazines. Now, unfortunately, for those of you with Glocks or modern striker fire guns that already have mag caddies, this is a Glock magazine caddy. You could tell that I wrote G on it. Unfortunately, this does not work. Any of you been here before? Anyways, you're going to need to get new mag caddies, which means you're going to probably want 3, maybe 4, depending on your use case. That's going to be about 30 bucks a pop for 3 to 4 of them. That's anywhere from 90 to 120 bucks. There's more money you got to spend. Then you got to think about holsters. Now, me personally, as a gun tuber person that shoots a lot of different types of guns, I've heavily invested into the modular or multi-use holsters. There's other companies that make things like this. This is an inside the waistband holster that works for a Streamlight TLR1 and most modern full-size guns. This is an outside waistband version of the same thing. TLR1 on this gun fits in. Fits in. Different gun, fits in. Fits in. This also works with my Glocks and all my other guns. So because I have that light on it, I can use these holsters. But if you want an inside the waistband and outside the waistband holster, you're looking at about 100 bucks each for both of those. There's another 200 bucks. You've already spent about maybe 90 to 100 bucks on mag caddies. Now you need new holsters. Magazines is the big one, but those holsters and the mag caddies also add up. With 2011 magazines, they're finicky. They're prone to getting dirty, and you really need good magazine follower pressure. And when these get dirty, they tend to slow down. I was at a USPSA match, and if you're dropping your mags into the dirt in a dusty environment, you're going to need to clean them. I did not have these in yet, but I did end up ordering this. This is about 30-ish bucks. You might want to get some sort of dry film lube so that as you're cleaning these over time, you can spray a little bit of dry film lube on the mop, run it through there every once in a while, keep these moving smoothly, because if they're not putting proper pressure, you won't get lock back. And some mags don't lock back intentionally, but I want lock back because I want these guns to be able to serve a dual purpose of both competition and potential home defense personal protection. So there's more money when it comes to the actual gun itself. Maybe you're shooting specific competition loads, or you get a ported gun. Now you might need to invest in springs, because the spring rate and the pressure is very important. If you're shooting really soft loaded ammo or you have ports, you might need different springs than the standard ones, which adds, maybe 30 bucks for a pack of springs. And if you're going to be doing that, if you're going to be taking this gun apart and testing those, you probably want some sort of toolless guide rod. And most of the cheap 2011s, like this Fusion XP Pro, does not come with the toolless guide rod. You need a little paper clip or a tool that it may or may not come with to take the spring and take the recoil guide rod out, because you want to be able to do that easily, because it is kind of annoying that this gun does not have a toolless guide rod. It makes taking it apart just slightly more of a hassle. Because these guns need to be ran wet and need to be maintained properly and often, you're going to want to be able to take that gun apart and clean it easily, which means the toolless guide rod is probably a necessity. After time, you're going to get tired and you're going to get annoyed with it. There's another 80 bucks. Now, unfortunately, unlike the Fusion XP Pro, a lot of these budget 2011s have MIM, metal injection molded parts in them, which I don't really have a problem with MIM. I think that certain parts are perfectly fine to be MIM'd, and I think metal injection molding comes with a lot of stigma around it because Kimber really shit the bed for a long time, and because of that, MIM has a bad reputation, and a lot of people don't really like the idea of some of their crucial small parts being MIM'd, and they want to go with tool steel. So if you're demimming the gun as well, you might spend a couple $100 on swapping out the safeties, some of the ignition components, little things like that. I think even the slide stop pin often is MIM in some of these cheaper parts. Don't quote me on every single part. Whatever gun you get, if it has MIM parts, it might be perfectly fine. In fact, it's probably perfectly fine for your use case anyway, but it is something a lot of people end up wanting to do down the road. So your very cheap, in quotes, $1,500 2011 might end up being more like $3,000. So if you don't have the desire to put that into the system, it might be better off to just put that $1,500 towards training, ammo, time on the range, maybe a better range membership, maybe a different gun, maybe a different platform entirely. So that's why in my main channel where I talked about this Fusion XP Pro, I talked about why I think this is a great value. It taking Glock magazines is awesome. A 2011 that gets you the 2011 vibes, gets you the feel. This gun runs about $1,100, but it takes Glock mags, meaning that my already possessed Glock mag caddies work. This is just one bin. This is only one of my bins of Glock magazines that I own. I don't need to buy more mags. Most people probably have Glock mags already, and if you don't, they're cheap, they're easy to find, they're reliable, they're dependable. You know what you're getting into. I actually cleaned a lot of these mags because these are the mags that I use most often. I cleaned most of these for the very first time, and I only did that because I happened to get a magazine brush because now I'm in the 2011 world and now I need to have one of those, right? So I think that the 2011 system is a lot more expensive than you might think, and I hope that this kind of gets you thinking, is the 2011 system right for me? Should I maybe invest in something like the Fusion, the Platypus, the Staccato HD? Because I think that those offer a very significant value proposition simply because you would maybe need to get a light and an optic and maybe a holster. I really do think that these holsters are a huge value if you own a lot of different types of guns, because for me, I have Glocks, I have SIGs, I have a 1911, I have a 2011, I have this thing. I have a variety of different pistols, and if I wasn't using a holster system that was universal, I'd be spending a whole lot of money on holsters, way more than I already have. Are these the best competition holsters? No. Are these the best duty holsters? No. Are they pretty good at most things? Yeah. And that's why I've kind of found this really nice sweet spot with these, because they offer me a lot of bang for the buck. I can buy 2 holsters, and now I can carry basically any full-size gun as long as I put one of these lights on it. And realistically, I can really only shoot one gun at a time. I can just pop this off and put it on a different gun, and that's perfectly fine. If I wanted to get more, I could. I actually did. I have about 4 or 5 of these lights. Some of them I swap, like my 2 Shadow Systems guns, I just swap. They share a light. But I think that the 2011 system, getting into it, there's a whole lot more cost than people might be thinking. And I hope that this got you thinking, and I hope that you learned something. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that business. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.